Hey, what's up guys, aarava here and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 96 today for the Hungarian Grand Prix in Season 5. If you guys did miss the previous episode, then be sure to go check that out before you see this one. But heading to this episode, there are no upgrades to talk about for ourselves, neither Renault, so both of us plateau there right at the top, but McLaren bring an update. McLaren historically have gone quite well at Hungary, so they might have a good chance this weekend, getting ahead of Red Bull once again in the performance update there, with Red Bull now looking to maybe wait until they spend big on maybe another major update later on, with Toro Rosso and Mercedes continuing to plow on to try and catch up to this top 4 pack, and also Sauber doing really well to actually catch up to Merc and Toro Rosso. So this could be 3 teams trying to join and make it a 7-way fight right at the end of the season, which will be quite enthralling, of course. Obviously, last time out was a interesting one, to say the least. A lot of major tyre wear issues, and coming to Hungary, I'm hoping a little bit less so than what we had in Germany. But the German Grand Prix was a 3-stop, which not normally is a 3-stop. So by that representation, then Hungary is going to be like a 6-stop at that rate. So we'll see about that. But we're in Q1 then, very overcast conditions at the moment. No rainfall is forecast for qualifying, but there is going to be some for the race. It looks like maybe towards the end of the Grand Prix, so that'll be a little bit of a spanner in the work. But right now, just a bit of a gloomy situation, really. But hopefully, isn't going to be a kind of sign of things to come for us in this qualifying day as we try and make our way through this session. We do get up into Q2 just about, and I actually get very lucky because Valtteri Bottas and both McLarens do not make it in. So it wasn't for those 3 making a bit of a fluff, I definitely would have been out of Q1. But Fernando Alonso did not even set a lap time there, so I don't know what happened there, if he got held up, in all his runs, or there was an issue with the car. There might have been a mechanical fault. I've had some mechanical faults where there's been like a fuel leak or an electronic system leak where, it just hasn't worked out and I have to wait a long while, so maybe Alonso got that, but he didn't even set a lap time. So both McLarens, literally, ironically, just as I said, it might be a good one for them with an upgrade into this weekend, both out of Q1, so they're going to have a lot of work to do in Sunday to come back. It is MONACO without barriers pretty much, so they're going to have to hope that their car is very slippery in a straight line for this main straight. Speaking about that, we're moving on across the line, and we set the fastest lap of this session so far in Q2. Eventually we'll move down though for P13 as people set in some much faster lap times. We have to go out there and really improve, but I've got to say the car was feeling really nice around here. Germany, it felt a little bit awkward at times, especially through turn 1. You would have seen at Hockenheim my car was very unstable, but through pretty much every corner here at Hungary I felt very good. Balance was great in the car, wasn't really going left or right in terms of the weight shift there on the throttle, so I felt pretty positive about that, and we make it into Q3, so feeling good. But the 2 Renaults looking pretty damn strong with a 1-2 there. Brendan Hartley right up there in P3, and his teammate Pierre Gasly gets knocked out, so I'm surprised about that, because I've mentioned before, I feel like Gasly's AI is very OP compared to Hartley, just as Fernando Alonso's is to Van Dorn, so I was very surprised about that. So a bit of a shock one there, Hartley making it in, Gasly not so, and also Verstappen there as well did not make it in. He tried to qualify on soft tyres, so a fairly few big names that are usually being in the top 10 fight throughout this entire Season 5 are now not going to be in the top 10 shootout, so that'll be intriguing to see how that pans out in the race, especially with the rain. Maybe a lot of people are going to have to hope that they get the timing right on the rain pit stop, I guess. But we're going to move into the top 10 shootout then. We only have 1 set of ultra soft tyres to use because we burnt 2 sets in Q2, unfortunately, so we had to wait till the end of the session. But I thought this was a pretty damn good lap, to be honest. I don't think I could have done much better, in full honesty, around the lap. And we come across the line for P2 then, ahead of Sebastian Vettel, very close between myself and Seb, bit of a larger gap to Carlos Sainz. And so I think in the end, literally that's the best position I could have hoped for, because Hülkenberg clearly made some sort of mistake on both his runs, or one of his only runs, because he's down in P8 compared to a teammate on pole position. So I would say that's pretty much best we could have hoped for today. So looking good, feeling good for Sunday, but there might be some rain, so that will be the biggest worry for me personally. But let's just go to the grids and see how we do at this race start.
It's always wonderful to come back to the lively Hungaro ring, a popular destination this, nice and close to the beautiful city of Budapest, with some exciting racing to boot. Who can forget Michael Schumacher pushing his old teammate Rubens Barrichello up towards the pit wall in 2010, or those great races of 2014 and 2015 as well. We're northeast of Budapest for the race today at the 2.7-mile Hungaro Ring circuit. 14 corners here, 8 to the right and 6 to the left, on a track where downforce is king and passing is notoriously difficult. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Now I want to ask you about Kevin Magnussen. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and the engineer completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ericsson, Daniel Ricciardo, and Hartley, Leclerc, Hülkenberg, Hamilton, and Roman Grosjean. Gasly, Perez, Esteban Ocon, and Verstappen, Bottas, Van Dorn, Lance Stroll, and Sergei Sorokin. Alonso and Kevin Magnussen rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So no penalties to talk about for either me or Sebastian Vettel. So second and third place, we will line up behind the Renault of Carlos Sainz. And looking forward to this race start. And hopefully we can try and maybe get a jump on Sainz if we get lucky into turn one. Then we'll see where it goes from there. But you can see that rain is coming later on. So that means we will adjust this strategy a little bit. Maybe we can afford to pit a little bit earlier on the ultra soft tyres because we'll be able to pit earlier anyway then for a second set. Well, obviously there's a half chance the rain might come later or earlier really. So we're going to have to just play it by the ear and see how the situation goes. But the first stop, I know I'm going to go into a soft set of tyres then, and then we'll see how it goes from there basically. But it could be a very interesting race. Obviously 2 Ferraris, 2 and 3. We got the Sauber of Ericsson just there in P4 as well. The 2 McLarens way down the order, so it's going to be an intriguing way to see how this pans out by the end of the afternoon. But here we go then to 5 red lights to the Hungarian Grand Prix here from the front row of the grid. Can we take the fight to the works, Renault cars? That'll be the question today as the lights go out and we're underway. It's initially quite a good start there. We're going to try and catch the slipstream of Carlos Sainz on the left-hand side, aggressively moving to cover off Sebastian Vettel as well in doing so. But Vettel dives down the inside, he gets the slipstream off me, and so he's actually in a better position to try and maybe try something on Carlos Sainz, but it doesn't work out for either of us. And in the end, Vettel was up into second, and after all that, I've actually just lost out rather than gaining anything. I thought maybe he could make something work with slipstream and making a move down the inside of Carlos Sainz. Hasn't worked out there, and in the end, Vettel's been the cheekier one of the two of us, and has nicked the position up into P2, so we remain in P3. At this stage, the car already feeling a little bit wary, because we were coming into this race actually with some gearbox wear, and I can tell you in the opening lap onto lap 2, the gearbox did start to fail on us. If you look close enough, look at the last corner. I go from 4th gear to 6th gear. My 5th gear is missing at the moment in this first part of the race, so very unfortunate. We hadn't even finished the first lap, and I was already missing a gear, and so that was not the best way to start. So Vettel's already getting away from me and is keeping Carlos Sainz honest, and instead Ricciardo is the one pressurizing me. But lo and behold, surprise, surprise, by the end of lap 4, as soon as my gearbox comes back into good working order, my 5th gear returns, I'm back on pace. I can pressurize Vettel once more, and so the top 4 here, Sainz, Vettel, myself and Ricciardo, are waltzing away from the rest of the top 10, and so now we can try and apply some pressure. But my team want me to come in on this lap here for a bit of an earlier pit stop, so I'm going to trust their word on that and hope that the engineers have ran the numbers, because at the moment I'm catching up to Vettel, but I just can't seem to make the move on him. We try something round the outside, but it's a kind of a half-assed attempt there, and so I'm going to take their word for it of, okay, let's get into some clean air maybe and try and jump Vettel with an undercut. The undercut could theoretically work quite well here if the tyre wear is, well, I know the tyre wear is quite bad on the ultra soft tyres. I know from good experience actually these ultras, especially with the tyre carcass temperature, they go woefully off the pace once you heat them up a bit too much. And obviously the player versus the AI, you have more of a chance to heat them up than the AI ever do. The AI are pretty much near perfect on the tyre carcass temperatures usually, so we're going to come in for a set of soft tyres in a bit earlier maybe than I thought, but no worries. Of course that rain will come eventually, so I don't think it's going to be a hindrance too much in terms of tyre wear. The only thing will be, let's see where we come out then in the pecking order. We were quite some way ahead of the rest of the grid, so we might slot in hopefully in a nice position. No, we come in just ahead of Sergei Sorokin, but we've got the Grosjean, Williams, and then we've got 3 cars up ahead, including one of the McLaren cars of Van Dorn, I'm going to assume. And so by the time we get through to the end of the lap on lap 5, this is not a good situation. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, I think. 6 cars ahead of me in a train. This is horrendous. My team have screwed me over here. Ferrari have screwed me over here. The engineers have not ran the numbers. It's good old Ferrari back at it again with the bad strategies, because now I have to dive bomb Romeo and Grosjean and try and get a move on here and force the moves through, because at the moment the dirty air is so bad around Hungary. You know, this won't be easy to make these passes. You know, it's not as simple as, you know, like a Monza just flying through traffic. This will be harder than it might look, even though the car is one of the best cars on the grid, because of the amount of traffic that you get around here. And so we're just about maybe going to slot through on the outside there for a very nice move on the Williams car. The Williams much improved lately in the last few episodes. Good to see for their sake that they're actually able to fight a little bit with other cars for the first time in a long while in this career mode. But it is really a struggle as we now try and find a way around the outside of Stoffel Vandoorne. Very nice dancing around the Belgian man, who's doing a very poor job in the McLaren. To say it's the third best car on the grid, he's only up in P14 right now, with yet to make a pit stop. But now we've finally got some people in the pits, but we are only up into what is going to be P12, that is, I think, as Bottas now gets overtaken by Sergio Perez with P13. Sorry, P13, even worse. And Bottas gets overtaken by Sergio Perez. This might be a bit of a struggle now. I'm going to have to see where I can make a move as Bottas goes a little bit wayward as he's chopped off by Perez. We go around the outside of the fin to go up into P12 finally, and now we find ourselves behind Sergio Perez. But I believe Vettel's maybe already made his pit stop now on lap 7, and he's way out ahead. Look at the minimap. I think that's his red dot up ahead. So we've lost out massively. And now as I try to go around the outside, we don't make it work. I'm way too aggressive there and get a bit too eager on the throttle, and we catch the rear end of Perez's car. So at the moment, Ricciardo leads the way. He's yet to pit, though, in this Grand Prix. He's got a lot longer. Same for Marcus Ericsson, yet to pit in this Grand Prix. Second place. Alonso yet to pit. He's in third place now. What a crazy stonking start in the first opening laps for Alonso then. That's from last place to third now in the Grand Prix with 8 laps gone. That's amazing. Behind them then, Carlos Sainz and Vettel, who have pit, are behind, of course, having made one pit stop. But the story is I'm way behind Vettel and I'm nowhere near him. So I've lost out massively. Fernando Alonso has gained hugely, and so all is well in the world, and order is resumed from Season 3 of career mode, I guess you could say. And something else that's repeating itself is myself getting stuck behind Sergio Perez. We're trying to make a dive down the inside, but we get a very awkward bit of contact there with Perez, and nearly that went into a half spin, kind of Vettel-esque almost from real life in 2018. And so that was a bit of a life flash before my eyes in terms of having this race go down the toilet in a split second. And so now Vandoorne's going to attack us. So I kind of insulted him a little bit earlier by being quite poor, but now he's going to try and do me as we defend from him. I go way too deep to turn 1. I'm getting flustered here. You can see a lock up on the front left. We just about make it on the outside of Hulkenberg to keep ahead, but Vandoorne, I had to try and outbrake him, but basically he kind of almost forced me to outbrake myself, and so I almost speared into Perez here. So at the moment my composure isn't too great. I fully admit everything's not going to plan as Vettel sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix. I think he's on ultras though, so that's my only kind of saving grace there. But annoyingly, Vandoorne and Perez then come in and give me the fresh air I've been hoping for. And so, yeah, we're down to P5. Ericsson and I believe Alonso. I think Alonso's ahead of us, so he might be behind us. I think Ricciardo is the next one. I think the running order is maybe potentially Carlos Sainz, Vettel, Ricciardo, Ericsson, then I think Alonso. I think he's that orange dot right behind us there, because of course Vandoorne just pit, so there has to be Alonso behind us in that train. So he's going to form into this literal train behind me, because Hulkenberg right up my chuff, as well as the Toro Rosso of Pierre Gasly. And both these guys are going to have DRS on me on this main straight, and we're going to be pretty much just sitting duck to Hulkenberg at least. We're going to try and force him to the inside and defend our position on the outside line, but also Gasly comes through. It's a bad lock up there from the German, and we're 3 wide into turn 1. Gasly around the outside of both of us there. We just about slot in back through up into P5, but Gasly comes back at us, and down the inside we lock up on the front left, and Pierre is fully alongside us there. He's actually ahead of us now as we go side by side through the next right-hander. We just about managed to hang on by an inch there to P5 up the hill over the crest. We give Gasly the room, and instead Hulkenberg now forces his way back through, and so Hulkenberg and Gasly will do battle up the hill. Thankfully for me, obviously, that those two are going side by side now. Otherwise Gasly might have had a very good run up the hill on me, but very surprised that Gasly also got involved in that, because it was looking like I was just trying to cover off Hulkenberg. But at the moment, I've got to say, these soft tyres aren't looking like they really are the race tyre to be on. Everyone's on ultras at the moment around me, and you can see the amount of understeer I'm getting as the rain is starting to come down very subtly. You can't really see it, but it is affecting track grip at the moment, and the softer tyres are working much better in these colder conditions right now, as now Gasly's overtaken me. We're going to come back with a very aggressive move to the inside there. Gasly fully covered off the inside line, but I said, nope, I'm going to go even more inside of you, mate, and we've done that, and we're back up into P5, but Gasly continues to fight a big dive on the outside, so this time Gasly's going to be the one on the inside for this next right-hander, and so he'll be able to force me out wide, and so we're still neck and neck to the blind left-hander up the hill. Who's going to blink first? Neither of us, because we still keep it in there, and Gasly somehow is still alongside me. He shoots it to the inside and up the hill. It's old familiar rivals from familiar F1 game past, and we're going side by side once again in the chicane for now entire half lap, 2/3 of a lap, and Gasly eventually is going to be the one that comes out on top. I just can't keep it side by side for that long. I tried to do something a little bit fancy, maybe with a cutback, but it just didn't work out, and Gasly has the better pace. All these guys have better pace than me at the moment because they're all on ultras. I'm on softs, and like I said, the softs just aren't working too well, apart from Hulkenberg. His are working pretty well, but you know the Renault has a pretty decent advantage to the Ferrari car at the moment, as Carlos Sainz keeps Vettel at bay out front, and Hulkenberg, the respective championship rivals, go dueling once again. But going side by side into the last corner isn't ideal, so we're going to really compromise our exit there, and we're going to try and cut to the right-hand side aggressively, try and break the slipstream of the Renault. But look at that, the Sauber of Leclerc comes through. It's going to be 3 wide, one's going into turn 1. Leclerc in the middle. He's going to try and overtake both of us if he can, and he is going to do so there on the exit. I'm left fighting Hulkenberg. We get ahead of him in Alto. Oh my god, Hulkenberg loses 2 places to Verstappen and Alonso there. So really bad day in the office for Hulkenberg. Tried to overtake one car, lost 3 positions, but Leclerc's fully done both of us then, and Walter's way, and now Alonso will do me to the inside of P3 on lap 13 because I'm on lean mixture and none ERS, because I've realised in that fight with Gasly and Hulkenberg, I depleted all of my ERS and was in low fuel mixture for that entire battle I had with Gasly, so I desperately need to try and save some fuel and ERS at that moment in time, and so Alonso just powering through, and he's really on for a good charge and a great comeback from last place, you've got to say, at this stage of the race now. But as we go through this Grand Prix then, the rain has come down a lot quicker than I thought. At the moment I'm P6 because Gasly and Leclerc actually made a pit stop because they're both on ultras, so they had to make a second pit stop, and so that's how I've been able to get the place bare. But you can see going completely off circuit, and the grip just isn't there now into the last second last corner, losing all sense of grip, and there I literally just can't turn this car. The car's turned into a boat, and of course the AI is still driving around perfectly, able to turn the nose in, but it's time for me to come in. I can't go any longer, and I think it's time to come in for the intermediates now on lap 16 this is. But yeah, that's, if you're wondering, that's how we got back up into P6s. There were a few people that overtook me that I had to make a second pit stop for ultras. So in the end, even though I lost a lot of time and pace on those soft tyres, they did help me maintain track position here because I didn't have to make that extra pit stop on dries. I could just come in straight onto intermediates. But at the moment, let's see how this works out now. On the outlap, immediately, I got to say, straight out of the pits, I felt the instant grip compared to those dry tyres. So I'm hoping maybe this will help us catch some cars. Maybe even Fernando Alonso, who stayed out as well. I think literally every AI car is still out there on dry tyres. So I was hoping and begging that this was enough to maybe catch up to Alonso to get up into P5. We catch up to a big old train now of Brent Hartley and a whole heap of cars there. We're going to waltz through these guys down the inside of the Kiwi Mountain in a Toro Rosso. There you got, I think that's Leclerc Sauber. Yes, it is. So Leclerc, he overtook me once, then had to pit to fall behind me. I'm now going to do the same to him and overtake him as we now try and just feather the throttle round the outside we go. And we're going to make that move as now all of them come in. Bottas in, you've got the McLaren of Van Dorn in, and so you can see there all the cars will be on the left hand side coming in for that pit stop, and so we'll get back up into minimum P6 this will be. Unfortunately though, that will be it. I can't jump Alonso, so we're back up to where we were basically. We didn't gain anything, but we also didn't lose anything in that situation, to be fair to us. But Fernando Alonso is indeed in P5 still. 4th place is actually quite crazily Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber. He qualified P4 for the grid, and he's actually still P4 in this race. So GG's to him. Not much else really to say there, with Sebastian Vettel in 3rd place, Carlos Sainz in 2nd, and then in 1st place will be Daniel Ricciardo. Remember, he went longer in the race, and so I think he did not have to make an extra pit stop onto a second set of dries. I think Sainz and Vettel both pit a second time for slicks before this intermediate period. So I think that's how Ricciardo jumped them for the race lead. And so now we move on to lap 20, 15 laps to go in this Grand Prix. It seems like an age to go because we're tiptoeing around trying to find the confidence in this car on this track, and I can tell you at the moment it's not there, because into turn one we have a double lockup, just a simple mistake in the wet pretty much, and Hockenheim gets me down the inside. But look at this, our car, because it's straightened up a lot faster because of that awkward angle I exited turn one of, I actually got much better traction than Hülkenberg and outdid him, and we got back up into P6. So a very weird way to take turn one, but it worked out there. So we now move on all the way to lap 31. Then nothing much really happened. I was just training Hülkenberg and also I think Gasly in the Toro Rosso pretty much all those laps. We overtake the lapped car. Hülkenberg has another go now down the inside. This time just through a good dive bomb there, not like a lock up from me, but we sail around the outside now, are able to out traction him once again. So it looks like the Renault has a good pace in a straight line, obviously a good amount of pace under brakes for him to dive bomb me, but that Renault, unlike the dry, does not have the traction in the wet, it seems, because I'm able to keep him at bay. And so on to lap 33 then. A very surprising thing though is that Hülkenberg comes in for an extra pit stop here. I don't know quite why, but he comes in for a pit stop nonetheless, and so it's going to be Pierre Gasly that gets up the order into P7. Verstappen is trailing him in P8, I can tell you. So a very odd situation where the Toro Rosso is actually outright faster than the Red Bull car in these very tricky conditions here. But then towards the end of the Grand Prix, it's a very nerve-wracking last lap really for me, because Ricciardo is going to win this Grand Prix. But I actually ended up losing fourth gear for a second there on the last lap of the Grand Prix. I think it comes back to us through the last few corners, but for a majority of that kind of last sequence of 33 to 35 laps, I had lost fourth gear, which is quite an important gear around Hungary, so was definitely very nerve-wracking to even keep this P6 position, but in the end we do so, and so it's across the line for unfortunately not too much in terms of a great result, but P6 I'll take it from what the race ended up being. And to be honest, I'm still not very happy with Ferrari, because their strategy call on that first pit stop just wasn't the one really in the end. But P6, it's points, we've beaten Hülkenberg, so that's at least something today.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
So as they climb out of the car, the Red Bull team are ready and waiting to celebrate a thoroughly well-deserved win. So, Ant, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
And now it's time to wind down and celebrate after that fantastic Grand Prix. Here they come, your top three, out onto the podium.
So like I said, we beat Hülkenberg in the end, so at least that's something, but Alonso and Ricciardo will gain a decent amount of points in us. So I think the battle between Ricciardo, Alonso and Hülkenberg is very close indeed, actually. You can see there, yeah, also with Carlos Sainz, it's all very close from P2 to P5, but we still are able to maintain this kind of little bit of a comfortable lead in the Drivers' Championship for now, because there's not one driver that's kind of outstanding getting a load of consistent results. They're kind of all just sharing the podium in a way, so for now that's good enough for me, but it still is not amazing. That definitely was not the strategy call to make, and so that was very much, like I said, Ferrari being Ferrari in a way there. So that we can't have too much of that, because in the constructors, Renault are gaining on us and are keeping us very honest here in this fight. And so at the moment, now we go to the end of this episode with a bit of a weird kind of thing, because the reputation is not great for Ferrari, and I'm pretty sure I have a contract negotiation here. So I was almost very worried that, could I even negotiate an even okay contract? Could I even negotiate a contract full stop? And the reputation was 0. Thankfully for me, because I qualified in second place, I actually did get a team goal and got 600 extra resource points. And actually in the end, that also gave me a bit of reputation there. So a little bit to work on. And so in the end, I was able to successfully negotiate another new contract with Ferrari there. But it was looking pretty bleak. So I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go in that kind of aspect. We'll cross that bridge once we get to it. But now in terms of upgrades, I was wondering what to do. Obviously, we've done an engine upgrade now. I feel like we need to go back and focus on aero, maybe, and the chassis, potentially. In the end, debating whether I could even do 2 minor upgrades. I don't think I can afford it just about, which is unfortunate. So we're going to have to stick with 1 minor rear downforce upgrade. But that will mean going to next episode, we have that major engine update and 1 minor rear downforce update for the Belgian Grand Prix. So that's going to come in handy. We can run a lower rear wing, maybe, and we'll have some extra just outright horsepower around Spa. That'll be really handy, I think. So hopefully Spa can be quite a fun one for us in contrast to this, which was very nerve-wracking towards the end. But guys, if you did enjoy the episode, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been Aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.